A young man with peroxide blonde hair holds up a Harman Walshi tape player, nodding along to the music. He looks at you with a knowing smile and says, as though you're supposed to be sharing some tremendous evangelical secret,
Hardcore! Hardcore! Yeah!
This young man adds a capital G before the H in his yeags and args. This produces a guttural Gotvaldian accent and makes him sound more, or maybe it's not Gotvaldian. Maybe it's Oranese. Probably an homage to Oranje, where Arno van Eyck is from, judging by his name.
You know about him?
You know Van Eyck? Wow!
The skinny wraith looks at you.
So am I! So am I!
Oh! Is that why they call you Egghead? Because...
Egghead to the mega! The K became the G! The boy became the man! The Advent?
Could there have been a right way out of this garden of forking paths, you think?
So you had a talk with Andre, and now you want to discuss things with Noid. Good. It's good you talked to Andre first. Gave me time to get a reading on your sign. Can't really talk to people before you get a reading. Yeah, gotta compare. See if we can align. I suck at socialising, man. Even now, our sign synchronisation is way off. But I'll see what I can do. Weird stuff. Specialised. There was a data processor and some sort of long-wave machinery. Wires going into water. Gives off a spy sign. Or some fucked up Samaran science sign. You know, the kind that got nothing's wrong with it. You should definitely be researched.
The sickest. That's perhaps why it should be researched.
Most of it doesn't exist, but there's also stuff that isn't allowed to exist, because the moralists think it's too dangerous for the psionic powers, pale-related diseases, pretenders pretending to be human, folk rights, that kind of stuff. The hardcore aesthetic is esoteric. It's not meant to be discussed with the law at this moment.
It's not easy to reach a harmonic resonance of signs without some adjustment.
Yes, further sign matching would do good for us. One way to achieve this would be by getting us into the church.
Hi again. So, how are things going?
He's a quiet man, mostly communicates through music, and by being a master of ceremonies. You know, a host, a declaimer of slogans. He's a performer, gets the people going.
Interesting, sire. A bit like you, then. An MC for short.
Well, he's just kind of here. I don't really know how to communicate with him. Yeah, sometimes, when I stumble and find my way into his centre, you have to hear a lot of hardcore to the mega first though.
The man smiles mysteriously, choosing to let the beat speak for itself.
As always, we'll be right here.
The young man with the tape recorder acknowledges.
This is hardcore. Hardcore! Hardcore to the mega! Internally coherent. All core! All right! Yeah!
He furrows his brow as his very large head trails.
Hardcore! Ah!
Is it though? But is it? I mean, really?
Feels like you should reply with the very pinnacle of idiocy here, so that things get totally transcendent. But you haven't gotten there yet.
I am the mic enforcer. I am the chicks checker. Yeah! Back to the heavyweight jam. Hardcore! Hardcore! Hardcore to the mega. Internally coherent. All core! All right! Yeah!
He furrows his...
Hardcore! Ah!
The question is, what is the question? But there was no question.
We're close. True. Hardcore to the mega. Internally coherent. All core.
He furrows his brow.
Hard.
Is it though?
One mind, one spirit. There's no other world. There's no other land. We're close. True. Hardcore to the mega. Here comes the night. We're close. True. Hard. Full. It's hardcore. Skibber danger. I am the rearranger. We're close. True. Hardcore. Hardcore to the internally coherent. Good morning, yeah. 1, 2, 3. Yeko kata. The place to be. It's the message. So we're close. True. Hardcore. Hardcore to the internally coherent. All core. All right. Yep. Gotta get the people going.
Yeah, Rick.
Vic. True. Hardcore. Internally. All core.
He furrows his brow.
Hard.
Is it though? But is it? I mean really? No, but seriously, I'm a bit worried it isn't.
The skin on your back is crawling. For a second, you can't even hear the music anymore. There is a hawthorn tree on Rue de Saint-Gislain, right next to the canal. Don't be alarmed. Everything is okay. He isn't actually worried. Everything is still super hardcore. What he probably means is, it could be even more so.
There's nothing wrong with it. I'm still in love with it. Sometimes I just feel like anodic music is in its infancy, you know? For example, take this Arno van Eyck jam I've been pumping for the last months. Isn't something holding it back from being hyper? It's like it's...
I think it's super hardcore, but you're right. It's not hyper hardcore.
If anything, it sounds a bit proto, like it's not fully formed yet. You might be a moribund alcoholic and a failed cop, but you are pretty certain a thing cannot be both proto and hardcore.
Wow! Culture cop! I think you might be right. But how could it become hardcore then? I know it in my heart, but cannot think it in my head. If this is not hardcore, how could anything be? No! This is the answer! What? Guys, there's something happening in his head.
As your mind works, the beat recedes from your ears. You hear your own blood pulsing through your head, nourishing your thoughts with oxygen. The rhythm is familiar.
Oh yeah!
But you're not. This is almost certainly a matter that surpasses the limits. The abstract shapes swelling in the foreground have done so in vain. This is a core matter. The answer in the double kick that moves the hardcore.
I know! So does mine!
But there's something else that hasn't failed you.
Uh-huh. Oh. Yeah. Lungs are for love. When Dolores Day was anointed innocence, her lungs started glowing through her body. For the world loved her, and she loved it back. Yeah!
Why wouldn't they be? Are the lungs not the place where you hold the breath of your soul?
I think so. gaily.
No, that would be silly. Your body isn't for thinking. It's for robust, wholesome things. Things like discus.
No nation, but transnation. No war, but class war.
He's not a communist. It's just something he likes to yell. He picked it up from a tape jockey at the Elysium. She was...
Yeah! With the rebel yell!
Don't be a lunatic. Of course he isn't. Jermaine here just yells random things. Odds are, sooner or later one of them will come off as fault.
Yeah! Revolution imperative!
Unless you were thinking Revolution imperative right now. Anyway, I've had a similar thing happen with eggs yelling. I know what you mean. That's fucked up, man. Lying like that. And
I can be a communist. If you want that, do you want me to be a communist?
please don't turn him into a communist.
Oh yeah, turn him into a communist. Come on, it would be super.
Aye! Communism rules the nation. Here comes.
You could swear you feel the bright future of the working classes, reflected off Jermaine Egghead's giant smile.
Dark Code Hardcore! Jermaine Egghead!
Basically, yes it is.
Alright!
Bringing of the law jaw. Okay, so we now know why you have law jaw, why you say the law in a weird manner, and why your jaw does that thing. You had polio as a child. You hadn't gotten vaccinated. It must have been right after the revolution. Not a lot of vaccine going around then. So you got infantile paralysis. The large-headed.
Good morning, comrade. Yeah!
The large-headed.
Good morning, comrade. Yeah!
You know it in your lungs where the pressure should vibrate. In your heart that's alone. And it
What? Wow, okay. We should start with the melody. But where would we get that stuff from? I'm sorry, I don't know anything about Nordic music. I'm just the party boy. I get the people going and say it's hardcore.
he feels ashamed he can't be of more service to the future of dance music. The young man falls silent with appreciation. He even tries to contain his smile, as if it could hinder your...
Basically, what you need to find here is a tape with some banging music on it, so that Egghead could use it to remix Van Eyck's jam.
Yeah, Maybe that street hawker across the pawn shop has got some tapes to sell.
There is a hawthorn tree on Rue de Saint-Gilles Lane, right next to the canal. A reel of magnetic tape is caught in its branches, like bronze.
Does it? Oh, I know! I know this! I can tell you where it is!
St. G is the boulevard before the canal bridge. The one that takes you to the whirling in rags and the industrial harbour. It's got the lanterns and the...
I knew that! I could have said that!
and the mosaic sidewalk.
But it's all blocked with that stupid traffic jam right now. Anyway,
That's all yours to figure out, Copman.
Copman!
Hi again. So, how are things going?
As always,
The shaggy head.
So you talked to my associates, right? Are you going to help us? With the church, I mean. Shoot. Oh, that. You're not going to believe me. There's no point in me telling you.
She's less prone to blurting out "crab man" than the others.
Okay. I went in and I saw a woman next to one of those machines. She was dressed like someone who's been raised by their grandmother, you know, strange old clothes. Had this absent expression. And then, you know, right behind her, a man crawled down the wall, upside down like a crab, down the church wall. He stopped right before he got to the floor, then just hung there like that, looking at me, right at me. I fucking turned around and walked out. End of story. It was too dark. I couldn't tell exactly.
Come on, she obviously could. She already went into detail.
He looked like a banger, okay? He was all muscular and stuff. Had a mesh tank top. Yes, a banger. As in a mess gang member. I know what it sounds like, but that's what I saw. Why? Okay then. They certainly do around me. My associates? I haven't got much to say about them. Of course I do. I just don't tell people about my friends and who they are and so on. I don't provide information on them. Me? I'm a silver bird.
High above and to the east, the cold winds blow over the feathers of an early songbird. She lands on the stone ledge.
Don't know what makes you think it'll be any different later, but...
Heavy wooden doors, more than twice your height, stand shut in front of you. The rectangular sea-worn ornamentation appears in stark contrast to the padlock. The carving on the door is block-like and angular, like the church itself. two locks. The surface is smooth from the wind, but moist to the touch. This cheap-looking padlock is sturdily built. It shackles together a hasp and a staple screwed into. You see a yellow circle with two X's and a big curve below them that looks like a mouth. You're pretty sure you haven't seen it before, but what the symbol depicts is clear enough. A smiling dead guy. There is something blindingly modern about this symbol. Its modernness puts to shame everything you've seen before. It's the contrast between the cheery, chemical yellow and the rigor mortis. As if the cheery guy didn't know he was dead, or the dead guy. This cheap-looking padlock is sturdily built. It shackles together a hasp and a staple screwed into the wooden door. The lock is adorned with a yellow sticker. Your hands are clammy from the sea air. The piece of sticker keeps slipping away. The padlock hits the wood like a knocker. With a resounding thud, your cold hand hurts from the impact. The lock turns easily. You hear a click, feels like electricity, and a great whoosh of air rushes in the heart of the. A machine stands in the corner, watched over by the figures on the stained glass window. It's turned on and quivering with soft electricity. A quaint little box of radio waves. Better not touch it. Who knows what evils it may hide? As you step closer, you notice fluorescent play and print buttons on the keyboard. A hatch connected to the central compartment is wide open. Behind the hatch sits a cube-like crisscross of filaments, smoldering in the dark like fireflies. Silver tape on a bar of fabric right above the keyboard starts producing a soft hum. The sound of static seeps through the machine. Oh no, it was already glowing and now it's also making... The static gets louder, slowly filling up the abandoned hall until a voice speaks out, crackling and open.
Good afternoon, Fortress Accident on Saint-Brune. This is the East Insulindian Repeat Station 1. Please repeat, is this the personal log? The filament you have inserted into the core. I don't know, that's what I'm asking. Is this the personal log? Good. Please repeat the password. I am contractually obliged to protect the privacy of the filament holder for stress accident. Now, can you please repeat the password? No. Still no. Received. I will...
That sounds bad. A login attempt. Something a criminal would do.
Fortress Accident, is there anything else I can do for you today? The company on whose name the terminal you're currently using has been registered to... One moment. Fortress Accident, SCS. produces revolutionary interactive call-in radio games. That's what the catalog says.
That's not bad.
I wouldn't know. I'm only here for passwords. Any other questions? Yes, I am alive. I am 74 years old and my name is Yvonne. I work as a repeater at the East Insulindian repeater station. It's my job to know where you are, Fortress Accident. As for me, well, I am sitting in my cubicle, surrounded by a wall of radios.
On an island on the river Esperance, a small woman, all skin and bones, sits in a room filled with audio equipment. Thousands of tiny lights are reflected back from her prescription lenses. Doesn't it get lonely, sitting there all by herself?
Lonely? Why would it get lonely? I get to talk all day to people like you over a warm cup of tea.
That's why she does this.
Now, please tell me if there's anything else I can do for you, Fortress Accident. Goodbye, Fortress Accident.
The machine's keyboard is still illuminated, revealing nothing happens. Bent metal, broken glass. Your path, you are the destroyer, the bane of inanimate matter. Kudos. In white, silver, and apricot faience, the young mother of humanism stands above you. A crack runs across her body. This is her innocence, Dolores Day. Cradled in her arms are a pair of glowing lungs, clearly visible from underneath her flowing dress. Your knees touch the floor. The floorboards are hard and cold. There you kneel among the snowdrifts, diffuse light falling on your hands. The world is silent, but for the creaks and cracks of the massive wooden structure behind you. It covers you. The ocean feels distant. Its ebb and flow blocked off by the cold air seeps in through the crack in the glass, cooling in the darkness. You sense her eyes on you, inspecting you with their multicolored glass, as if you're a bug under a microscope. The woman looks down at you kneeling. She towers among her followers, architects, laymen, courtiers. There is a sad smile on her lips and a glint in her green-blue eye of what? Compassion? Remorse? She acknowledges the passing of someone who is still alive. You. No, she doesn't care about you. She only cares about her shiny sovereign's orb and her silk robes and getting to the aerodrome on time to leave. As that lonely word passes through your mind, you rise into the apricot-colored light of the window. woman keeps smiling her distant smile above you, sundered by the crack in the glass. Despite the damage you've done to yourself, the title appears lodged in your hippocampus. This is Her Innocence, Dolores Day. No amount of Commodore Red can wipe her sad smile from your brain thing. It has survived the deluge and haunts you still, and will haunt you forever as it haunts the highest category of historic individual, an embodiment of the world spirit. An innocence is infallible. The decisions made by one are not decisions. They are inevitabilities. What would have happened anyway? Only accelerated, packed into decades instead of... No, we are alone. 300 years ago, in the wake of the discovery of this Isola, the Insulindian, by explorers from the continent of Muindi, she is, among other things, the innocent, many things. You know she was a woman of the court, the wife of an influential Marchese, and eventually draped in ancient sadness. Are you sure you want to remember this bit of historic trivia? Standing under a long, slender form like this, the past. It's a silo of sadness, fermenting. You should keep away. No, you must know. Terribly, women of the court were expected to play both contract bridge and chess sufficiently well to prove an interesting challenge to a man. A simple grasp in matters of philosophy, theology, and science, she made the most of her position in the antediluvian court, a court visited by the most prominent thinkers and artists of the day. In secret, she was becoming the era's preeminent philosopher of the state, a scalpel, a piercing gaze. She was an almost preternaturally magnetic and intelligent individual. To her contemporaries, she appeared out of time, a messenger from the future of the species. We all fell in love with her. It was on her advice that Irene Le Navigateur sponsored a number of voyages into the Pale, a costly, often tragic endeavor, ultimately vindicated by the discovery of the... She was crowned 2 years after the first expedition returned, setting in motion what is wow indeed. When her innocence was declared, and the queen she had advised for years fell on her knees before her, she was so overcome with emotion. Bystanders reported golden filaments lighting the already sunlit chamber around her, clearly visible beneath her. That is why the lungs are the symbol of love for the cultures of the Real Belt. As did we all. The lands of the Mesk and the Occident, and even far away Supra-Muindi, altogether 21 of the 40 mundial nations of the time, immediately accepted Innocentic rule. In a city called Advesperaskit, in Vesper Messina, her homeland, the name of the city means evening comes, but it happened on a winter's morning. She was dressed in a white and pearl dress on an emptied-out plaza, with the crowd far away. Already, her Theriers, the secret servicemen of the Innocents, were worried about an assassination attempt. Oh yes, she looked like humanity's young mother, a perfect mother, insultingly beautiful. It was as if her face and midwinter snow was beating the cobblestones around her. A small attaché of officials stood by as her Theriers placed a white... One of the men in this secret service killed her 22 years later, a young man who had come to suspect that Dolores Day was not entirely human, but something else. Something that had walked in our midst, watching us stumble for hundreds, if not thousands of years, until it decided to interfere in the course of our history. We were supposed to come up with this ourselves. Dolores Day was shot in the chest with a fowling piece 8 times. The man, thought to be insane, said he once touched her and her body had been unnaturally warm, like a furnace. This inhuman quality was witnessed by many others as well, glowing lungs and all. It is commonly attributed to mass hysteria and religious psychology. Terrifying is a term too emotionally charged for your semantic memory, or what remains of it. But terrifying, it's a simple word. She was bad for humanity, and you shouldn't have started thinking about her. You already do. Although she is often considered to be the greatest human being to ever live, she was the most socially secluded and least self-aware of all the innocences. Some modern thinkers would consider her a war criminal for the campaigns she waged against the Mesk state. And then there were the resettlement programs. The Mesk state tried to detach itself from innocentic rule. Parts of the world were experiencing whiplash from accelerating into secularism. Her mandatory, she adored chess, yes, but also military war games. Dolores Day often holds a tiny tin soldier between her index finger and thumb in icons such as this. She was also blonde, the blondest woman you have ever seen, with green eyes the color of the Pacific. Little is known of her Marchese husband. It's as if he vanished from history after completing his role, which was to introduce Dolores Day to court. In conclusion, yes, there is something lonely, paranoid, and even this subtle terror is part of her iconography. But she was not hell. She is the opposite of that, the wind of paradise, stripping away the covers. There you stand, below her once more, with your hands on your side, momentarily at a loss as what to do with yourself. The mother of humanism stands above you, a precious, the shards glimmer in the dark. You see little pearls of light on the edges of the An old door, worn by elements, guards the depot. The wind has blown a sand dune in front of it. The door hasn't been opened in a long while. You see a handle. The concrete structure looks military in origin, over half a century old at least, but sturdily built. There's a trap in the reeds at your feet. Looks like the same one you saw Morel set before. The reeds sway in the coastal breeze. They seem to be waiting for something. The wind picks up here, near the Cape's end, surrounding the narrow strip of land from 3 cardinal directions. Locusts are crawling around in the trap, confused but uneaten. You see no carnivorous reed pheasant. In your hands you hold 16 Days of Coldest April by Yekaterina Dahl. The cover image shows a row of... Indeed, the book is unusually heavy in your hands, as though the cover were lined with... It would do that in Grant. You flip through the book. The pages are thinner than you realized, and the type quite... Real art is dense and difficult. If it didn't feel like you had to wrestle a suicidal bear to get through it, you weren't really reading. The back cover is dominated by a black and white photograph. She can't be much older than her mid-30s in this photograph. And yet, from this cover, the eyes of a sad old woman. In cold, detached prose, the author describes a scene from one of the Yugoslavia riots in the 20s. Youths overturn motor carriages and set trash cans ablaze, while as ethnic tensions run wild, a pair of young lovers meet each other on the street. Somehow, in the middle of all the chaos, they manage to lock arms and look into each other's eyes. It would physically hurt you to keep reading. Are you sure? They go through a brief and somewhat awkward love affair. And in the end, they betray each other and succumb to the absurdity of Gradian life. The man becomes a lens grinder, completely abandoning his former existence. He toils through the daily drudgery at the Lenka polyfabricate. Happiness and fulfillment have eluded him his whole life. And in the end, he has nothing to do but dedicate himself to the... She spends the next several decades standing at a conveyor in a Sosnovyj fish processing plant. The smell of fish guts slowly seeps into her hair and skin. The memory of their short time spent together tortures the former lovers ceaselessly until the end of their days. Years pass in solitude, their bodies growing ever more decrepit. As life leaves their remains between the soil sheets, their final thoughts are filled with regret. The face of King Friesel smiles at you. For some reason, the smile, now unsurprisingly, you skim the headlines. Finally, there's a brief article by the writer, G. Martin, accusing the owner of the case, the eternal, thus they is is you flip back to the front. The bullet is still safely sealed away in a plastic bag bearing the RCM stamp. The worn map features. You take the legal documents out of the envelope, a 12 to 40 month construction period, and the zoning plan in the addendum. The youth center cuts into the ocean like the bow of some great modern ship. It's going to be awfully close to the already existing buildings. This is either an ominous or cool architectural choice. Hard to say. My money is on cool. Looks like a cubic pyrite.
And Mikhail noticed the windows, especially with how there are no windows on the south side. This was to deal with. You, officer, come to investigate the historic subtext of West Martinez? I was just telling my son about this building. Not many people appreciate the historic significance here. Very rich in hypertext. Yes, hypertext. Young Carp and the collection of cultural hyperlinks.
He's just making up fancy words. This doesn't mean anything.
Oh yes, so Mikhail. They had to deal with monitor glare, especially in the summer. They still had vector monitors back then. That was 49 years ago. So they didn't have windows on the south wall. Very important. Mikhail, say hi to the officer. Mikhail's a little tired today. We spent all night trying to run Orbis on his radio computer. Have you heard of it? It's a programming language used in Grad. Quite tricky, but he wanted to play this Grad-made adventure program. We've been getting really into Worms lately.
The man speaks in the artificial cadence of a professor, or someone who's been on too many radio shows.
But I assume you're not here for giant worms when there are so many real things to see. Just as I was telling Mikhail before, this is where the Coalition landed in 08. We could be standing on what is the most interesting landmark in Revachol West. Aha! But it's not just any empty old building. What not a lot of people know is, this used to be the R&D department of Felt Electrical. And Felt, which now sells ink cartridges mostly, was once a top dog in the turn of the...
Hold on. What's R&D?
Apologies, it's an acronym for research and development. They don't use it anymore. You're probably more familiar with RTD, Research and Technological Development.
Mea culpa. You are not familiar with that one either. This man is a bookhead. It looks old and weathered, with seagulls picking apart its stone and metal carcass. Bushy undergrowth has taken hold of the collapsed rooftop.
That's not surprising. Only a vestigial ink cartridge and ferrotape manufacturer remains. They started out as a midway electronics outfit in Königstein 2 centuries ago. After an aggressive move to Revachol, Feld became a global player in the emerging personal electronics market. Still, Tricentennial was beating them in business machines. But Feld had an ace up their sleeve. Or should I say, they were developing an ace up their sleeve? I'm mixing my metaphors here. It was here in Martinez, possibly in this very building, that they developed prototypes for an elegant folding mechanism of rollers and ferrotape ribbons, portable enough to be a take-it-home solution. Revolutionary, which is a feat of engineering even today's giants, Rehm, ICN and ZAM, haven't achieved yet. Indeed. What?
The revolution!
Unfortunately, their moonshot project never made it to the market. Feld's move to Revachol backfired. The revolutionary government liquefied their assets and expropriated those very advanced prototypes. Possibly from this very building, or one of the adjacent ruins. All of this was built by Feld, even the boardwalk. Wild Pines built Martinez proper as a resort for their middle management. Feld built this side of town for R&D. Yes, they even built a pleasure wheel, but that got destroyed in the war.
A wheel!
Yes, to lure in their star engineers. This part of Martinez was nothing but reeds before Feld arrived. They had to make the prospect of living here attractive. It was supposed to become a global center for innovation in cybernetics. But I'm afraid it didn't end well for the boys. But this story is a bit too dark for little Mikhail here. Now, if you were to ask about tape computers, they used them for military communications, but also to write and send out press releases, the most notorious example being Le Décret de Mars. What's the Mars Decree? I mean the radio transmission sent out to news agencies and world governments by the newly created commune of Revachol. It's a beautiful piece of text, actually. A singer-songwriter I know, Charette, called it a love poem to Revachol on her political I tried to get Mikhail to memorize it. Tried to. Someone was much too interested in worms to be paying any attention.
The kid takes a peek at the green and silver worm on the cover of the book, already forgetting about this part of the discussion.
Actually, no one knows. No one even knows what a computer made entirely of tape would look like. But word has it, they were very elegant, exquisite, alien-looking turn-of-the-century hardware. 10 years ago, I did a little freelancing, I guess you could say. I was a special consultant for an exhibition at the Wompty Dumpty Dum Center in Vredefort, Oranje.
Wait, did he just say Wompty Dumpty Dum Center? He did it. He said Wompty Dumpty Dum Center, like it's the most natural thing in the world. What the hell is a Wompty Dumpty Dum Center? And who the hell are Keith and Guy? This is all ninsy-pinsy garbage for sissy people.
The Wompty Dumpty Dum Center for Contemporary Arts. The exhibition itself drew on Lagerman's notion of memory, and so there were some parallels. That's why the head curator, Paul Ockerman, chose to... In fact, I'm not. The Wompty Dumpty Dum Center is a place you can visit if you're ever in Vredefort and are ever in the market for an exhibition space / contemporary art research center. But perhaps I should return to the tape computers. As I was saying, the device itself was very elegant, fragile even. One could write directly on the tape using a special chemical solution. The machine would then analyze the handwriting, perform operations, and project output onto a white screen.
Made of black film and folding tape structures.
Very, very cool. Though I understand the socio-economic causes of the revolution, it pains me to imagine the revolutionaries setting fire to this precious device. But so they did. The Feld... Yes, the official name of the prototype. Some sources report it as the Feld Playback Experience, but those are incorrect. Who knows? Maybe it was an accident, or maybe they didn't want the technology to end up in the wrong hands. Either way, they're all gone now. All 3 versions of the prototype. Nothing but debris and ashes remain inside that building.
2 seagulls circle in the sky. You look up and think, really? Or was there a 4th prototype that...
But of course, What else? I do have some money, yes, but that's not what's really important here. Oh no, I don't have it on me, officer. I was talking in more general terms. I'm just spending time with my kid here, showing him around the lesser-known parts of our hometown. It wouldn't be wise to carry huge amounts of cash on such expeditions.
Not that he would have to worry about being robbed. He looks surprisingly buff.
I do some Lomantang stick fighting now and then. It's an anthropological heritage of the Lomantang people. A martial art of sorts, but what not a lot interestingly enough brings us to the socio-economic structure of the traditional rural tribes of the Lomantang Isles, which... But anyway, I'm boring you with details again. You were saying... Lomantang stick fighting is a little like a Berolidin addiction. I've been practicing it for nearly 20 years now, so you could...
Wait, what does this man know about Pyrrolidon addiction?
You got me, detective. But my history should hardly come as a surprise.
Dad's fighting with sticks every night after dinner for 4 hours. He has...
That's right, Mikhail. It also has a meditative quality. Helps to clear my head. But anyway... No, thanks to you for having me and little Mikhail here to pick your brain. A very interesting conversation indeed.